This is Tea with Botha.
I am delighted. I hope you will be delighted too by what we're going to talk about as you join us in Tea with Botha. This unconventional this is something that we never talk about, but I am joined by this wonderful lady who's going to share with us Xoli about what we're going to talk about. I want you to hear it from the horse's mouth. Siswam, thank you so much and welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me to share your space with you. I don't take it lightly. Xoli, originally from Mkungundlovu, which is known as Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal. I come from a family of two. I've got a sister, a 13-year age gap. She came when I thought that I was an only child. And I come from one side of my family, for lack of a better explanation. I don't know my dad's side of the family. So I come from my mom's side of the family through and through. A loving upbringing, showered with love. And I went to school down in KZN. And then I traveled a bit of the world before deciding that I love South Africa too much and I want to come back and settle in South Africa. But the question was, where? Because I'd outgrown Pietermaritzburg, and that's how I find myself in Johannesburg. And I've done a number of things, and one of the biggest one with my career journey was working with the national carrier for a good 14 years.
That's it, SAA.
Yes,
Okay.
that as a flight attendant. And then during then, I started doing other things. I started my clothing company there, and I left in 2018. And I focused on my company. Then I wrote the book, and here we are. So I am a creative director for my clothing company. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I do a lot of menopause advocacy work also.
Tell us more about the book. Where does it come from? What had happened?
Okay. The book is my journey with premature menopause in my 30s.
Let me see the book, by the way. Yeah.
There we go.
Interesting. It's called Perimenopausal Globetrotter.
Yes, the perimenopausal globetrotter. Yes. It ties the topic because when I went into premature menopause, I was still working as a flight attendant. Hence, you can see there's an image of a air hostess and the globetrotting. That was what was happening. My life was centered around traveling the world, and then menopause happened, and the title covers it all. Then.
And then tell us more about this journey. I remember that I know that I went to its launch.
Yes.
But tell us more about what happened. Why did you write this book?
Okay. As I mentioned, I went into premature menopause in my early 30s, and menopause is a subject that we hardly speak about, especially as Black people. When I went into it, I did not know what was happening. I kept thinking that something else was wrong because I was just looking at the symptoms, not understanding what the cause was.
30 years old? You're 30 years?
Yeah, I was in my early 30s, I think around 32 or so. But I was not paying attention much to the changes that were happening because I did not know that menopause can happen much earlier, which is one of the things that as society we think menopause is for old women that have reached a certain age. We never think that menopause can happen before a certain age. So I'm busy living my life, traveling the world. Then I'm starting to experience different symptoms, and I will always put them off to one thing or another. For example, when I was struggling with insomnia, I will say that maybe it's due to the time difference because maybe I was traveling to a different time zone. That is why I'm struggling now with sleep at home. Whether I'm having like digestive issues, I will think that maybe it's the issue of the food, how it has been prepared, not connecting the dots. And as time progressed, then the symptoms obviously changed now from just being physical. They became emotional. I was always feeling sad, feeling like there's just something that is just sitting on my chest. So I'm always wanting to cry, wanting to get this thing out, but I could not put a word to it. And then because I'm not sleeping properly also, it leads to things like fatigue. When you're fatigued, then you're moody, you are irritable, and then it continued being a ripple effect. And then came the psychological symptoms also, like anxiety and brain fog sometimes, forgetting simple things that I've got no business forgetting. For example, driving to work, I have been driving the same road for years. Suddenly, I'll forget which lane or which off-ramp to take. But at that time, also, again, I am getting frustrated, but I'm not really paying too much attention. And then eventually, climacteric depression hit. And I started
What is that?
climacteric depression.
Yeah.
It's almost
Big
like
words. Make it simple.
they are
What is that?
explained in the book,
Okay.
but it's almost like, with PMS, like during menstruation for most women, they will get the depressive episode. They're feeling like low mood, they're depressed. It's due to their reproductive moment of the month. It's due to hormones and all of that.
Hormonal
And
changes.
yes,
And
just like pregnant women, some of them will have also all of this state of mind. Even after delivery, postpartum, they will get that type of depression. Menopause also has got its own climacteric depression. It's got nothing to do with anything else, but because of the hormones, it is the cause of the depressive state.
and you felt all of those.
I felt all of that and more, but I go deeper into all of that in the book.
And you're not able to put a finger to it.
No, I still
that all of
cannot
this,
pinpoint it. Up until, as I said, then I started entertaining suicidal thoughts now, questioning the point of life. And also because I'm saying I've been coexisting with this thing that I'm carrying that is just making me feel so emotional the whole time. And I don't know how to make it go away. And at some point I'm thinking like maybe dying is what is going to make it go away. It's going to give me the peace that I've been longing for years. And then I always say that God being God, he intervened at the right time, because then one day I got that epiphany, but you are entertaining suicidal thoughts. These are unhealthy. And then it's like the clouds suddenly cleared. And then I sat down and then I backtracked. Like for years now, I've been dealing like with a number of symptoms that are not going away, but they're becoming worse. And then I jotted them down. And then because we are a techno generation, then I contacted with Dr. Google, and then it showed that it might be menopause. But because I was still a certain age, I could not just conclude that indeed it's menopause. I needed to go for a consultation, which meant I needed to do tests. Because if menopause happens before the ages of 45, you cannot just self-diagnose. You need to have the test done that prove for a fact that indeed it is menopause. Because with the symptoms, sometimes they interlink with other conditions. They have to check for things like thyroid. For example, if you're getting hot flashes, what if maybe it's an onset of TB? Your hair is thinning or falling off, it's a sign of something else. So it is important that you get that confirmation to say that indeed it is menopause. And I know that the terminologies can be confusing, so I just want to explain first. Menopause is opposite of puberty. Normally, when a girl hits puberty, they go on their periods.
That's the menstruation.
Yes, when they fall, if they have sex without protection, they will fall pregnant. Menopause is the opposite. The female's reproductive years, ziyaphela, in terms of like your periods are going into that decline. Eventually, they're going to stop completely. Your chances of falling pregnant naturally also are done for. So you see, it's the start, the other one is an end. And then the period that is leading to this decline, ultimately the end, it is called perimenopause. Yeah, the transition to menopause.
Yeah.
Yes. So menopause is just that moment where effect iyavala completely. But because we use that word menopause
very loosely.
Yeah, it blankets perimenopause. Then you reach that period where then you reach that moment. Then the moment you reach that moment, then you are on post-menopause. That is where you're going to be for the rest of your life. Periods ngeka sabuya, you're not going to fall pregnant naturally. You can still use other options, things like your IVF or surrogacy if you still wanted to have children. But you being able to conceive naturally, it is done for. So it's perimenopause, the transition. Then you hit menopause when the factory iyavala. Then you stay on post-menopause for the rest of your life. And as I explained earlier, that from the ages of 45, that's when natural menopause is supposed to happen, from 45 to about 55, and 51 being the most common age. If menopause happens before E45 layer, say from 44 to 40, then they call it early menopause.
And this what happened?
And then in my case, because I was still younger than 40, so from the ages of 39 and younger, it's premature menopause.
Premature menopause.
Yeah, so premature menopause, then early menopause. And some women will go also into menopause, maybe that is triggered or caused by certain medications. For example, a woman has got cancer and then they're on certain medication and then it leads them to medically induced menopause. Then some have to do certain operations, whether to take out isbelet or the womb, and then they go into surgically induced menopause. So those are the most important terms to understand whenever we speak menopause, so that we don't get confused, because it gets so confusing sometimes. People are like, but there's too many pauses in this menopause
And I'm
journey.
learning as a man. I mean, I've raised girls, and I mean, I
Yes.
continue though how old as they are, I continue. I mean, that's why for me, attending your book launch and meeting you, and I mean, it's a learning experience, and and this, like, as you said, culturally, these are also things that we don't talk about.
Yep.
I mean, we don't talk about them. And now, where you found yourself, it must have been difficult.
Yeah.
Was it difficult?
It was a very difficult journey. Obviously, when I say journey, the moment I knew what was happening, because then, okay, now I know I've gone into premature menopause. I want to talk to someone. My mom, firstly, she had not reached menopause yet. So she did not know how to support me, because it's important to get the support in the sense of somebody that has walked the journey. Relatability is important.
Absolutely.
Then because like they get it.
They'll put themselves in your shoes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my mom had not gone through it. She was like, you know what, I can support you, but I do not have lived experience. And then I was like, what am I going to do? Because I need people that have walked the journey. I checked online looking for South African voices, and most of the voices were white, older women voices. Even internationally, it was normally the case. And I was like, where are my people that are going through it, that have gone through it? And it was silence, it was crickets. And that's when I took it upon myself to say that, you know what, I am gonna intentionally get the conversations going around this phase of life, because there's still so much shame also. Stigma, myths surrounding menopause, and that is why even those that have gone through it, when you try to open the door to the conversation, you can say that some are a bit uncomfortable. Others, like even at work, because I mean, menopause do affect how you show up at work. I wanted to speak to my colleagues to hear from them. How was your journey? How did you navigate it? When you're getting a hot flash in the middle of doing a service, you're serving passengers, you find 1 minute,
You're on
suddenly,
air. That time you are, yeah.
yes, suddenly you're sweaty and all of that. The first thing you want to do is to take off that scarf, try to cool down. And I want to hear, how did they navigate it? And you could see the window closing, like, we don't want to talk about that. Why do you want to talk about this thing? I'm like, if we don't talk about it, then we're going to keep struggling in silence, because we can put our voices together, speak to management to say that we need to have uniform options for us that are struggling with these symptoms. Because I, in hindsight, remembered seeing some of the older women, sometimes they'll have the scarf just sticking out, not tied around the neck. Then I understood that, oh, they did not want it around their neck, so that when they're getting a hot flash, then they don't get flustered. It's just sitting around there. And I mean, you would know, flying is a high-paced, also fast-paced job. Sometimes you're flying to Durban. There's no time to dilly-dally, stop, go compose yourself, then come back. Then when you're struggling with things like forgetfulness, which is brain fog, 1 minute a passenger is asking you, say, for a cup of tea, and you ask with milk and sugar, they say yes. Then you turn to your trolley, you've forgotten, was that tea or was it coffee? And you have to turn back and ask them again, was it tea or coffee? And they look at you like,
What's wrong
how
with this?
can you forget something so simple? I just told you a few seconds ago, like, what is going on?
And they don't know. You also, I mean, but then you understand, or you understood, or you didn't also.
There is the moment when I did not know. Obviously, that affected my self-confidence also, my self-esteem. Then there was the moment when now I knew. The difference was when I knew, then I had my own tricks now. When a passenger will say coffee, then I'll put my hand on the flask for coffee.
So that you don't forget.
Then I don't forget. So one had to find tricks. And then milk, and then they say milk, then I make a mental note to pour the coffee, then the milk, then only ask afterwards with sugar. Unlike before I'll ask tea or coffee, milk and sugar, like everything in one go. But the moment I knew that I was going through this struggle, then I had to find my own tricks, because we could not have like a notepad, like a waitress at a normal restaurant.
Take this
where
order.
you can like write down. With us, you have to be on the wall. So there was just quite a number of things. But as I say, that it was important for me to have different experiences for relatability. Also to understand that what you're going through is not just only applicable to you. Because I think that's another thing that most women, they struggle in silence, and they keep thinking that what they're experiencing is just only for them. But if we talk, then you're like, oh, okay, so you also go through it. How are you navigating it? And then you've got that freedom of
Sigh of
understanding.
relief.
Good. Oh, at least
So
there
that
is a tribe.
there's nothing wrong about me.
We are a tribe. And even if you have to explain at home, you can be like, oh, I met somebody else also. This is a experience. And then but then they're like, oh, okay. Because research has proven that 1 out of 5 women, they will hide their menopause struggles at home because
At
of the
home.
shame. Yes.
Of the
at
shame.
home. And at home is that space where we're supposed to be free. Whatever that you're struggling with, you should be able to talk about it. But because of feeling like they're going to be labeled, it's like, oh, you're being such a drama queen, you're exaggerating your experiences, because one of the myths is menopause is a natural process, so it's supposed to be easy. But not every woman's menopause journey is going to be easy. Just like periods or pregnancy, some women, they breeze through it, it's easy, they glow through it. Then there's women that are struggling with it, and then others, their lives are completely turned upside down by those
Experiences.
life experiences.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the workplace, research also says that 2 out of 5 women will hide their experiences, because most organizations are not menopause inclusive. They do
Say
not
more. What would they have to do to be more
menopause
inclusive?
exclusive.
Yeah, menopause
Firstly,
exclusive.
have awareness
Inclusive.
drives, so that both male and female, they are knowledgeable enough about menopause. And
Like what you're doing to me now.
yes,
Yeah.
not that you must have like the hardcore or nitty-gritty knowledge. The same way that most men will never be pregnant, but they know about pregnancy. When a woman says that I've got morning sickness, they get it because it's been normalized talking about those things.
Yeah.
When a woman is going into labor, they speak about contractions. They get it because, everybody has normalized those conversations. Organizations have got things like your maternity leave. They know about it. They see a pregnant woman trying to pick up something heavy. They can be like, no, let me help you, because they understand the repercussions of pregnant women lifting heavy stuff. That is how it should be also with menopause. Have the awareness drives so that when I am sitting across from you having a meeting, if I was to get a hot flash, you kind of have an idea as to what is happening. And also, even if you want to ask in-depth questions, it's comfortable. It's not like that awkward moment. And also, I myself know that I can also advocate for myself. For example, if you are my boss and we work in a shift environment, then I can say that, you know what, I've been struggling with night sweats. I've been struggling with insomnia. So I struggle in the morning with waking up. Normally, I fall asleep around about 5 in the morning. Is it possible that I don't do the morning shift, but work the afternoon shift? But I can only have those conversations with you if the organization has ensured that it is menopause inclusive, everybody is trained around it. and also the right jokes. I've spoken to a number of women in different organizations because I do a number of talks.
That's what you do, yeah.
Yes, because I'm on a mission to change the menopause narrative, whether in the home space, in corporate SA, in the churches, in relationships. So some women will just share some of the struggles, including some of the jokes that can be thrown at the weirdest of times. It's like, you started with these things of yours. I have my own experiences also when I was still working for the airline, where my male leader, when I told him that, may I have this exception because of what is happening? And his first response was like, you'll be fine. My sister went through it. It's just menopause. To me, it's like, no, but that is flippant. Where is the empathy? Where is that looking at my situation on an individual capacity? Because every woman's menopause experience.
So her sister may
is
not
personal.
have gone through what you're going
Yes.
through. That's what you're saying.
Even if it was to be the same, but I'm not her.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we
yeah.
are colleagues at that time. So we need to approach this in a professional manner.
That's why you're saying issues of education, issues of policies, so that you then mobilize and you galvanize both men and we know that in the industry are mainly led by us males, and we've never been through that experience.
Yeah.
So it's important for to avoid that being flippant,
Yes.
you know, or dismissive.
Yep.
Or get over it, you
Yeah.
know. Utshwere ke nna. Yeah.
Because, in the UK, there has been cases that have been taken to the tribunals. And I'm sure the more we have these conversations and women understand menopause properly, some are going to take their organizations also to CCMA. They are going to demand that we need to be accommodated. I always make an example that back in the years before there was maternity leave in organizations, it took women gathering their voices, coming together to say that we go through this phase of life. We need to be accommodated, be able to go on maternity leave, know that our jobs are secure, come back and continue. Same as menopausal women, they need to have certain accommodations for them. And most organizations, they always assume that it's something that is maybe supposed to be expensive, hence they're not willing to open the door into even talking about menopause policies and all of that. But some of the changes, as I mentioned, it's simple things as being able to accommodate a woman that needs a change of shift. Looking at the uniform, have whether it's a summer and a winter uniform, then even if it's winter, because I'm accommodating my personal summers, I can still wear my summer uniform in winter because then I know that this is how I am comfortable even when I'm getting a hot flash. I'm not feeling too flustered because of what I am wearing. It's things like if you're working in an open plan office, there is a desk that is closer to the aircon, and yours is way in the middle of the office. You are away from the aircon. Then you should be able to request to swap with someone if somebody is willing to, because sometimes we know the aircon fights in offices. It's winter, people are bundled up, they're cold. But when you're getting a hot flash, you want cool air now. And then it can cause like those fights. So swapping desks, it costs nothing. Moving your desk too closer to the window, it costs nothing. Some women, they have to go to the bathroom more frequently because they have to now urinate quite frequently because of their bladder issues. Then instead of having your desk also being too far away from the bathrooms, and then every time you're doing up and down, you start getting labeled with, this one, things to see, this office is her catwalk, it's a ramp, she's busy modeling up and down, not understanding that these trips have got nothing to do with her wanting her outfit to be seen. She is going to the bathroom.
So it's got to be at home, it's got to be at work, it's got to be at churches.
Yeah.
I mean, and share with me when you, that time, I know that you're married. That time, you're not married.
I was not married, very single as a church mouse.
Yeah.
And I was also on a journey of abstinence. And I always say that it was a blessing in disguise in a way, because if you do not know what's going on, you can't even explain it to your partner.
Because you yourself don't understand.
You don't know what is happening. Hence, menopause conversations are important to be normalized so that we know even in our 20s, way before menopause age, what menopause is about, so that we are able to pick up the signs the moment changes are presenting themselves. Because as I said, that the natural age for menopause is from the ages of 45. But the perimenopause, it can take a few months for some women. For some, it can take years, as long as 10 years for some. So if, for example, you were to get into menopause at 45, meaning that your perimenopause journey was, say, 10 years, from 35 already, you are already navigating the symptoms. But if you do not know, then you're clueless. In my case, in hindsight, having known what I know now, then it means that I possibly started transitioning in my late 20s.
And
but I
without
was
you had no clue.
knowing, because menopause preparation conversations are not a thing. I say we have period preparation conversations, as you mentioned with your daughters.
Oh, yes, I was the one person, yes.
Then menopause preparation conversations need to be a thing, because also, as I said, there's medically induced menopause and surgically induced menopause. So imagine if we know that, for example, breast cancer happens to this young lady in her 20s, then automatically she goes into a medically induced menopause. Then her world is turned upside down. But if she had an idea that this could happen, then she is more focused on dealing with her personal journey, but she is knowledgeable, she is informed.
She's got these tools, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hence, I always sign my book, Informed Equals Empowered. We need to be empowered. Then if we're empowered, then we are able to speak to our partners also. Whether
you have the correct language, because I will struggle as a partner because I've not been through this. I don't have a clue. That's why I'm saying to you, other than what we are doing for this episode, you're also, we are picking two flowers with one stone, with one hand rather.
Yeah.
You are educating me as well because, it's so important. And fast forward or moving forward, you then meet your partner.
I am postmenopausal already. Factory is closed. Everything is done for. So we need to have conversations.
Because you don't know, he may have expectations,
Yes.
but not only him, the parents.
Yes,
Ingane
in-laws.
zikuphi na?
Yes, there is
Makoti, isikhathi siyahamba, what's happening?
Kwenzakalani?
Kwenzakala,
Bapha
asibone,
Abazukulu.
Baphi manje,
Yeah.
ugogo wathi, I would even die, man.
Ngingakaze.
Une pressure, this guy, and tell us, what happened?
It's important to have all these important conversations very early on when you meet somebody. I know that there is this thing that you can't be bringing up conversations that are heavy in the early stages of getting to know each other with a person. My belief has always been the sooner you have those conversations, the better. Because, for example, if I say, my name is Xoli, I am postmenopausal, and this is what it means. If you still had plans or wishes to have children, it means that is gone, unless if we look at other options.
Yeah.
But naturally, it is not going to happen. What is your stance on that? Then he can decide, I still wanted my own children naturally with my wife. And then since you cannot, what does this mean? Am I staying or would I rather leave? And I always say that it is better somebody ahambe very early on, because it's easy to get over the disappointment and the broken heart. I like to date for a year or two, and then when now the possibility of marriage comes up, that's when we decide to have important conversations. Then it hits differently. So we had the conversations much earlier. But also, fortunately for me, since 2016, when I knew what was happening, I started posting about it on Facebook because I wanted to educate. I wanted to be that icebreaker also for women that do not know how to express.
You still have the Facebook, you still have, what is it called?
I've got a Facebook page. Firstly, on my personal timeline, that's where I started posting a lot about the whole journey and experience. Then I've got another page which is around the book, which is the Perimenopausal Globetrotter. I've got a private Facebook group because some women do not want to speak openly. So it's called Mzansi Menopause Conversations. Then I've got Instagram, which is Mask with Xoli. And normally there on Tuesday evenings at 6:30, I will have conversations around menopause, whether I invite another woman to share their experience, because that's another thing. I don't want people to keep hearing about my journey. I wanted that diversity. You get a woman that went into medically induced menopause, surgically induced menopause, an older woman, a woman who is working in the healthcare space, who is a nurse, that is saying that we don't speak about these things. I went into menopause, but also I was as blindsided as some women because I didn't have the right knowledge. I'm hoping to even get men at some point to be part of these conversations. I get amazing female bosses also that come and share how they're doing their bit to make their organizations to be menopause inclusive. For example, Amelia Beatty, she is the CEO of Liberty 2 Degrees. She's very passionate about menopause conversations. She went as far as getting 75 books for the whole
organization.
Staff, from executive, like everybody needed to read the book just to normalize and get them to understand, because this book is not just my story. It's my story, then it's got academia, like full on research, because then people need to get proper knowledge. There's a chapter 25 that is purely geared towards men, because they need to understand it and hear from other men also. Then there is random musings, for example, women that are behind bars. How do they navigate this chapter? Because they are restricted in so many ways. We've got liberties. If I was to get a hot flash now, like for example, I've got my fan. I always have my fan close by.
Carry it along. Yeah.
Different ones, fabulous ones to match each and every outfit. I can have ice water. I can step outside.
But that woman who's incarcerated.
Yes, what is she going through? And sometimes they even like more than, I don't know how many are in a cell at a time. But you can imagine that the more numbers it is, the more also it gets because when you're getting a hot flash, you don't want somebody next to you even breathing sometimes, because it's like, oh my God, your breath is so hot. Like keep away. So we know body heat. It just travels. So I can imagine that they are confined in that. No liberty of opening the windows. There's things like irregular periods. Suddenly your periods, you can't really track them. They come anytime, anyhow, because as you are headed there, they either become also heavier or lighter. What if that you've run out of pads and in the middle of the night, it's light out, the warders are wherever, and when you try to ask, maybe it's like, uqalile, you're just being difficult to turn the attention and all of that. What is the department? Yes. What is the Department of Justice doing to accommodate menopausal women behind bars?
And correctional services, yeah.
Yes. I've got things like talking about the identity crisis that comes with going into menopause before time. Because as I say, normally menopause is expected to happen like in your mid 40s and above. If it happens in your 20s, in your 30s, it's like, which end of the spectrum do I fall under? For example, I'll try to speak to older women, but hey, we're not layers, you know. Why if not come into Zabatavadala, you know? Yes, why?
Yeah.
And then you turn around, you look at your friends, they are in the at the peak actually
of their careers.
Of having a bantwana, they're falling pregnant. When that is gone, you're dealing with a completely different phase of life. So it's like, where do I fall? Who do I speak to?
And what was his take on it, your husband?
He was very open-minded about it. And,
this is you said you started off where, look, this is Xoli, and this is what Xoli is going through.
And fortunately, and yet again, as I say that I post a lot on Facebook, especially back then, even my prayers, I will put them out. So it's like, oh Lord, can I please meet a man that already has children, so that it doesn't put any pressure on me, firstly, to have children. And secondly, because I knew also that even if menopause had not happened, I didn't want to have children of my own. So it's like, even if I meet him, may he have his own children, Also, may they be teenagers, not babies that I still need to take care of, because I'm not geared for that responsibility. And God being God, when I met him, had 2 teenagers. So it was an answered prayer. And maybe in a hindsight, it was a blessing for me. Then he did not really have to put that pressure of expecting to have his own children. And as you said, also that the in-laws, what happens then?
Yeah, what happens there?
And even with my own also, I mean, I had to have the conversation with my mom because, as I said, I was the oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And initially I would be like, if it's in God's plan, it will happen just
That
to
doesn't
make her
know.
to be. Yes. But then when menopause happened, then she also had to understand that it's not going to happen. Same thing with him. Once he knew what was happening, I was like, you know what? How are you going to navigate this with your family? You know, it was like, you know what? If they were to ask, obviously, you will have to have the conversation with them. But if they're not asking, then they're not asking. But also, I'm friends with some of his sisters on Facebook. So they've seen everything also because I would post about it. And even those that do not know, the work that I'm doing, it makes sure that everybody knows, even if they were wondering, because I talk about it.
This
then it
activist,
connects.
she's an activist, yeah.
So they really get it. And even when I'm with them, I will share my experience. And also it encourages different types of conversations, you know. When you mask off, you allow people to mask off about their own experiences, whether they are also transitioning. Then, it's like, because Xoli,
They
the
get more
sister-in-law,
comfortable,
has
yeah.
does this work, then we can speak to her about that. So they benefit also.
And his parents, there were no issues, and
No, his mom passed on a few years into our marriage, but she had never also like made me feel otherwise. And I've also said that even with him, even on our worst days, because you know, marriages, relationships, the ebbs and the flows, good moments, not so good, he's never used that against me, because
He's
you know,
never
sometimes
raised it,
people
yeah.
will try to hit below the belt when you're not okay, and then they want to be like, how do I silence her? Then they want to use that one thing against you. And we know that society, especially when it comes to things also like infertility, they want to label the woman.
That's the stigma you
based
spoke about.
on that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And
It is you.
Yeah, it is you. And I've never found myself facing any of that. And whether it's because also I speak openly about it, and I know that people will always also have an opinion, call you whatever that they want to, but as long as when you solid in who you are. And that is why I always encourage women to not find their identity based on their reproductive value or worth. Because just because you do not have children, and when you think you want to have children, then you find out that you cannot have children, it does not mean that your value has diminished.
Or you're worthless.
You are still a whole worthy person. And some women also believe that if I got married, we only had one child, and then for some reason, then I was not able to produce more children, even though I wanted to. Then automatically, it means that I should agree to a polygamous marriage, just because I am not able to. But have the right conversations. Is this the kind of arrangement that you had signed up for? That he is a polygamist? If that's not what you signed, yes. If that's not what you signed up for, then you can say that, how about we look at other options of having children? There's IVF, there is surrogacy, there is adoption and all of that. Then if it was a thing that he is a polygamist, then you can then still say, this is the time that then you continue because that was your plan. But if it was not part of the plan, then women should not just succumb to anything, because those are the things that women feel so embarrassed, so ashamed about menopause, because they feel like the value is gone. And also society also in general, they put so much value on women based on their age. I mean, we're coming. Yes. I mean, this week, social platforms were up in arms. because of the comments that have been made at the First Lady.
Which I felt was very sad. And I've not only been sad, I also thought, would we behave the same if this was, do we talk about men in that,
No, it's like men, the more they get older, suddenly their value increases. They even get called, when they've got their gray hair, like the silver fox and all of that, the silver bay and all of that. But women, they're encouraged to change their hair color and all of that to just
and here's, the First Lady achieved so much. And does this community work.
Her value is priceless.
But those things were not spoken about.
No, the focus
is it her looks and condemning and
It's like, why? So there is so much change that needs to happen as to how women get viewed. That the older you get, you've got more wisdom. As you say, the things that she has achieved, the lives that she has impacted.
She has changed and
I always mention that the Japanese, they even have this a wonderful term for menopause. They call it konenki.
They call it?
Konenki,
Meaning?
which is second spring.
Second?
Spring.
Spring.
So it's like a new chapter. It's a rebirth. It's a new phase of
very empowering term. You how do you spell it?
konenki. The way that I was saying, K-O-N-E.
K-O-N-E.
N-K-I. Konenki.
N-K-I.
Konenki.
Which is life-giving. And look at and there's value into how do we the names that we give to things. It's like I said, it's life-giving. It's more empowerment. Konenki. Yeah. So it's beautiful. And we don't have a name. Do we have in our languages? Do we have? We've got how many languages in South Africa? And I've not heard of.
You know what? I've also done a bit of homework trying to find the right words, because even when you look up or look for material that has been produced in our languages that speak to menopause, in Zulu, it is called ubfazi.
Ubfazi.
And to me, it's like, but that's a cop-out. Like, it's such a quick fix. Like,
no, you're
kind
right,
of word.
A cop-out.
Like,
Ubfazi, womanhood.
What is that?
Yeah.
And Gasutu, then they translated it to Sisadi,
Sisadi, yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's like
you say,
still. It's like, no, we need to. And then my
and
question
the Vietnamese Africans, what do you do? Is there a word, the Vietnamese?
I don't know about it in Afrikaans, but I'm sure chances are also it's something that is just so easy. My interest, though, was it not given any of the African names because it was not a thing. Like, it was a phase of life, but it was not given that much attention and focus. It's just like a natural transition for every woman. We're not really going to talk about it. And also because the life pressures back then also were completely different. Unlike now, we need to have name for things because, we career women, we are this and that and that. So we need to have terminology so that if you ask for certain exceptions or certain accommodations in certain places, then you can say, this is what I'm
going through.
Navigating.
Yeah.
And also, the way of life back then also was different in the sense of people were much healthier. They ate more organic foods. The quality of lifestyle was different. Chances are also their struggles might not be as hectic as now. In the sense of the foods that we eat now, they hardly are the bestest in terms of quality. Even what is deemed organic, sometimes it's not really organic, but we've got no way of knowing. You can only vouch for something that you've planted yourself. Then you know that I did not put pesticides. This is how I grew it. We eat food that is laden with preservatives, sugary foods, our quality of sleep also. We're the generation that is not sleeping enough. And sleep does so much in terms of the body recuperating, regenerating, putting itself together so that we show up at our optimum best. In the olden days, life demands were less. There was no electricity, there was no TV, there was nothing. So bedtime was quite early and they slept right through it and it was pitch dark. So they slept good. And then the bodies were in good way. Sugary things were not a thing, the meats and all of that. They were active naturally without going to the field to till the land, to go to the river, to fetch water, to do this and that. But they were actively like living their lives. With us, you have to be intentional. Either you have to have a gym membership, or you say, "Good, I walk around the block, I run, I do this," but we have to be intentional about it. They spend so much time outdoors, in sunlight, fresh air, and all of that. This day and age, there's people that can go for a week without spending time out in nature, getting all of these things, which do so much for our overall well-being. You wake up, it's winter, around about 5, you get in the car, you drive to work, you park underground, get in the office, day's done, get in the car, you'd get home, order online, 60 minutes, they deliver. That's it. The week is gone. You haven't really spent time outdoors. Then you wonder why also like things like mental health issues are rife. Because all of these things that we're supposed to get naturally, like, spending time in sunlight, it does so much for our mood and all of that. But we're deprived of all of those things. Stress management. We working high pressure jobs. We live in countries that have got high crime rates. There is just so much that induces stress. Back then, even if they had stress, but life was more simpler. So there is so many things that when one sits and thinks that maybe menopause was not too much of a thing back then, because maybe it was not as hectic also. And all of that, but it's such a broad
But also
subject.
because it's linked to sex, it's linked to sexuality. I mean, all of those are things that don't go there. Don't talk about this. These things are not spoken about publicly.
Why? We don't talk about that.
These are things. Look, don't tell us about. I mean, you talk about the same way in menstruation. I mean, and you'll also be surprised that these things,
But sometimes izinto zabafazi.
Yeah,
I've heard that a lot when it comes to men that are into menopause conversations. Like I've been hosted by Prof. Mpedi AUJ. The other day I did a podcast with Ndumiso. And those men, I always applaud them, adding you to the list. That
Thank
you
you.
are progressive. You understand that you're coexisting in a world that has women, whether at home, in all the other spaces that you exist in. And it starts with you guys being part of these conversations for other men to be comfortable, because as you're saying that menopause will affect the intimacy part also in relationships. Some women will struggle with things like low libido, things like vaginal dryness, or even when you're getting a hot flash mid-action, what do?
You
Does
mean
it stop?
during love making?
Does it stop? Does it continue? How do you navigate
Because
that?
I would immediately think that, is he thinking of someone who's somewhere or what,
Yes.
during action, yeah.
And also some women, when they're struggling with low libido, the partner might take it as a personal rejection towards him. Because why is she suddenly not wanting to have sex, make love with me?
When I don't understand
Is she
this,
not,
yeah.
yes, is she no longer attracted to me? Is she getting it somewhere else? So if a woman is not clued up about the whole menopause journey, and what it comes with, then she cannot also advocate for herself and have a conversation with her partner to say that, what, this phase comes with this. And yes, in a broader spectrum, it's like this, but then this is what I am going through, and this is how it's going to present itself in our marriage. Because as I say, if a man sometimes is thinking that you're getting it somewhere else, then it starts fights, the insecurities and all of that. Some people can end up even getting into like physical fights, the whole GBV and all of that.
So there's no aspect of our lives that would not be impacted by this.
No.
And as I said, when I told you that this has been a journey for me as well, and then hosting you, I hope that corporate out there would be able, as you said, one bought these books. I hope that with what we are doing, you'd have more people come and say, Xoli, please come and talk, come and educate us, come and empower us. And I thought, for me, this has been a journey. I hope that you also journeyed with me when what Xoli was doing was not only for me, was even yourselves as well back home there, wherever you are. Educating, empowering, and there's nothing as powerful as education. I want to thank you Thank you, Kakul Swam, for making time to come here. And I hope that you also have enjoyed it. I hope that you have learned. I hope that you have been empowered. I hope that you have been enlightened. And this is a journey. Let's continue. I mean, where will they find you? So that we know, and then we have it here. Where is it? You set your Facebook, and you have all of these. Yeah.
Facebook, it's Xoli Madlala, my personal timeline. Then the group on Facebook is Mzansi Menopause Conversations. And then there is the book page also, which is the Perimenopausal Globetrotter. And then on Instagram, it's Mask Off with Xoli. And then on LinkedIn, it's Xoli Madlala. And then the book is available directly from me or on SA Books online. And I always say the conversations are never long enough. That is why I had to write a book, because an hour when you're invited somewhere, it goes by so fast. Like there's so much that we did not touch on even today. But thank you so much.
But thank you so much. I hope that we always say with my team that there will be a sequel. We invite you again. I mean, like you say, there's not much time, you know. It's so little, especially when we're having fun, especially when you are being educated. And thank you so much once again, Siswam, for coming.
Bonga mina.
And go Siswam. Thank you. Thank you.
This is Tea with Botha.